one's for you.
I guess which class?
You're on.
Okay. Well, welcome to the April 10th, 2016 Cosmic Weather Forecast. So this is what we got going on today. And today I was thinking about doing something a little bit more educational than just the forecast. I'm going to briefly go over all of the signs and what they mean in what order, very briefly, in a little bit of a story, so maybe you can remember the signs. And then I will briefly go over each of the planets and briefly describe their archetypes. And then I will tell you what it all means. So this might take a few minutes. So this is the universal soul. This is the archetype of human consciousness. It's called the Para Atma, the Supreme Soul. So we have really the beginning of the Supreme Soul. This is considered the very first house of the Paramatma. This is Aries, or Mesha in Sanskrit. And Aries represents beginnings, coming into creation, like boom, we're here, this present moment, right now, we're doing it like a ram, charging through, Aries. So it's ruled by Mars, which is very much about action and taking action and initiative. Its primary element is fire. It's responsible, generally we look towards Aries to determine our dharma, our purpose, what actions we can be taking in the moment. Taking charge of our life is very much Aries. What am I going to do now, in this moment? Boom, we're here, Aries. So it's a lot like being born. This is the birth. Once we're born, we need to be wrapped in blankets, and we need to be comforted, and we need the material world outside of us to support our existence. And that's what Taurus represents. It's earth element, or Prithvi in general. It rules things like wealth, or Artha. So backing up just a little bit, Aries is ruled by Mars. I did say that actually. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, or Shukra. So everything that we need in the material world to sustain our existence. So we look to Taurus to find out how much food we have in our fridge, and how much money is in our bank account, and really how much liquidity we have in our finances. Kind of the lubrication of our economic situation or our stability. We look towards Taurus. Generally also it governs property, real estate, things like that. And really it's the ruler of the material world, Taurus. So once we are supported by the material world, we have Gemini. So we start to cry as babies. Probably we're crying before we're wrapped up in the material world. But communication is next. Gemini rules communication. And it's all about having that intelligence within us that wants to express what's inside of our mind. So that's all Gemini. It is ruled by Mercury. And maybe I'll back up a little bit here and just start to introduce these things. So Aries is ruled by Mars. We got the pirate right here, Mars. And then Taurus is ruled by Venus right here in Pisces. And then we have Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, which is represented as a Buddha. So really Gemini and Mercury in general really talks more about our intelligence, our ability to decipher information and communicate that information, which is all about the Buddha. And this isn't the golden fat Buddha, but this is more of the Buddha that has the Buddhi, which represents that fire inside of our mind that transforms information and digests information and compartmentalizes information. So Mercury rules Gemini, communication. Once we learn to cry for our mothers, then we get to experience our mothers, which is Cancer, ruled by the moon, the divine feminine. Cancer is the idea of nourishment. It's also the idea of when our mom is not so happy and she's kind of crabby and mean and vicious. A little bit of those things too. But mainly, it represents unconditional love. And that's really the highest aspect of Cancer, is unconditional love. And then once we've met our mother, then we get to meet our father, which is Leo, Simha. It is ruled by the sun. And the sun represents, or Leo represents our father. It also represents progeny, our children. It represents power, and it represents the egos behind power. It represents, it's ruled by the sun, and the sun is really, and wherever the sun is in our chart, it's how we want to project ourselves into the world. It's how we interact in the world. It's how people see us. And that is Leo. It has a lot to do with politics, especially politicians more than politics. It has a lot to do with royalty in general and lineage. So backing up again, we've been born, we have material things that we need to sustain our existence, we learn to communicate, we establish the relationship with the mother, then the father, and then Virgo. We learn how to take care of ourselves. We learn what time we go to bed. We learn how to what time we brush our teeth. We floss. We learn we go to elementary school. We get into all these routines throughout life that help sustain our body and our potential for the long run. So Virgo is a lot like the things that we do to maintain maintenance on the vehicles of our body. It's the routines that we set in place that are going to support us for the long run. And so we're really learning how to take care of ourselves in Virgo. It's also ruled by Mercury, or Buddha, which is very much about, in this aspect of our intelligence, which is what Mercury represents, it is about putting something in its place, about compartmentalization, about structure, about order, and that's all Virgo. And that's considered the 6th house, 5th house, 4th house, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Alright, once we've learned to take care of ourselves, maybe we're capable of a relationship in Libra. Libra is represented by the lady who's blind with the scales, right? So it's all about the balance. Libra is about compromise, about striking the balance. And that is what is essential if we're going to establish any sort of relationship whatsoever. It's about understanding where the balance lies within that relationship. Hopefully. It is also ruled by Venus. So Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. Venus and Mercury are both the planets that are responsible for relationship in general and how we interact and communicate with people. So Libra, relationship. Then we move on, once we've established relationship, then things get a little bit more sinister in Scorpio. That after we've been married, then we get to have, then we get involved in all the passions of that relationship. And we explore the deep, dark depths of our partners. We explore their psychosis, probably many. And it takes a toll, and it causes a lot of transformation within the relationship, within ourselves, to explore those kind of deep, dark depths, both within our partner and within ourselves. And so that's what Scorpio is all about. It's ruled by Mars. It is a very sexualized sign, so we get married and then we get down. And we stir up all the karmic stuff that is in that kind of relationship. It's ruled by Mars, which is a very action-oriented planet, again, and is really wanting to do the work and to take action, to transform, to come out of the catalyst. Is that the right word? Chrysalis. To come out of the chrysalis and be a butterfly. That's really the action of Mars. Once we've explored the psychoses of ourselves and our partners, we move on because we need a priest and Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is really the sign of the priests and the priest castes. It's the sign of our religious associations. It's our religious communities. So really, this yoga studio that we're in here, Wasatch Ayurveda and Yoga upstairs. You can find us on Facebook. That's all governed by Sagittarius. It's ruled by Jupiter. And we have Jupiter here. He's the head priest. He's in Leo. But ruled by Jupiter. And in Sanskrit, it's called Dangyur, which means bow. And the idea is that the Sagittarius idea is finding a single-pointed focus for ideals beyond ourselves. So like the archer, he bends the bow and he finds a single-pointed focus of what he really truly wants. And he focuses on that ideal and he shoots for it. So that's kind of what we're striving for within our spiritual system, community, religions, ideals in general. So Sagittarius can be really awesome and be all about spirituality, but it can also be about dogma and be about the dark side of things. There's definitely some Sagittarius things happening with like the Third Reich and Hitler in general and all of those kinds of things. That's all Sagittarius as well. So once we've established maybe some clarity within our soul from going to a priest, then we can move on to perform our work in Capricorn, which is all about work. This is all about limitations, responsibilities, obligations. This is the hard work. It's an earth sign, and it's ruled by Saturn, who is in Scorpio right now. And so Capricorn is all about what we have to give up and sacrifice within our moksha, or our freedom, in order to do what's right, in order to fulfill our purpose, in order to fulfill our dharma, and to establish ourselves within society. So once we have established our work, and that is secure, then we can move on to higher ventures into Aquarius, which is about coming together as a community in order to work for a utopian society. So here is all about the people and the people's movement, the people's energy coming together to support a society that is utopian in nature. Or at least idealistically, it's utopian in nature. But Aquarius definitely has its all of these things have their higher vibrational manifestation and their lower vibrational manifestation. So once we've kind of worked for that utopian society, and it's work, which means it's also ruled by Saturn. Saturn's really the work, the taskmaster. Then after we've done that, we can move on to Pisces, which is about death, about the acceptance of death. It's about liberation. It's our connection from this earthly realm into the realm of the spiritual world. And it is also ruled by Jupiter. So, all right. I think I'm going to skip the whole going over the planets, really. I think knowing what planets or what houses are ruled by what planets kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into the nature of the planets. But we'll do that for the next forecast. I'll go over the planets. We'll just go over the weather for today. So right now we have the sun, which is in Pisces. It's at the very edge of Pisces, and 3 days from now it will move into Aries. The sun in Pisces means that we're kind of identifying ourselves as a culture, or generally we're looking to use this aspect of spirituality to enhance our projection, our ego. So, you know, I don't know, well, there's definitely Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish, who's going to the Vatican to talk to the Pope, I guess. I don't really know. But you know, he's evidently using ideas of spirituality to kind of enhance his his projection, which is fair. You know, well, we all do it. Anyway, so yeah, that's the sun in Pisces. It's not. It doesn't mind it being in Pisces. It's not the greatest for the sun. What is the greatest for the sun, and where the sun is exalted, is in Aries. So that's where it will be in 4 days. And Aries is all about taking charge. And when the sun is in Aries, it's going to be exalted. It's when spring is in full force. It's when there's action. It's when our ego really feels like, or our sense of self feels like it's taking charge of our life. We feel like we have a measure of control. We're taking action to create the things that we want in our life. And that's why it's exalted in Aries, because it's all about action and doing things to help ourselves shine, really. Like spring cleaning and things like that. So that is what's happening with the sun. We have Venus is in its best placement right now in Pisces, which is awesome. And it's exalted because Venus is material existence, it's material things, it's the nice new car, it's my nice new clothes, which aren't that nice. But but maybe they'll get nicer over this month with Venus and Pisces. Maybe somebody's gonna give me some sort of really nice spiritual like gown or something that I can wear, or I might crochet it or something. But anyway, Venus is all about bringing aspects of our spiritual potential into physical material manifestation. So that's why it's exalted in Pisces, because it's bringing our spirituality into manifestation. And creativity in general is definitely a big Venus in Pisces thing. So this is a really great time if you're a writer or if you're an artist. Like really get to it and maybe do some Venus Bija mantras or something, or we can talk more about that in class at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll see you there. Wasatch Ayurveda Yoga upstairs. Alright, and really we should have started with this, but right now, at this very moment, the moon is in the nakshatra called Rohini. It's in the sign of Taurus, but these things on the outside of the zodiac, these are called lunar mansions. And there's 27 of them. And each of them are represented by one of Chandra, or the moon, which, even though she represents the divine feminine, or he's considered a boy. He's a boy. He's a man. Chandra, the man, representing the divine feminine, which is great, right? So all of these places, all these lunar mansions are represented by one of his 27 wives, and they all have a story. Rohini is the most beautiful of all 27 of the wives, and she was just, yeah, she's nicely dressed. She always smelled nice. She represents. There's a story where Brahma is overcome with sensual pleasures, and he's chasing Rohini around, and Rohini turns herself into a deer and runs away and hides in the jungle, which I'm not really sure what that means.